Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News program, and up next are tonight's top stories. Zionist occupation continues its assault on Jenin for more than a month, pushes to displace Palestinians from Norshem's camp in Tulkarm, while the resistance calls for escalating operations in the West Bank. Also coming up, Morocco faces growing anger over repression, with warnings of escalating crackdowns on activists and calls for international monitoring of Western Sahara violations. In Sudan, the army expands control, retaking different areas in the Blue Nile, while an RSF attack on a displacement camp near Al-Fashir leaves casualties. And later on, Kremlin welcomes Zelensky's message to Trump on talks, while the White House links Ukraine aid to a rare earth minerals deal, and UK Prime Minister Starmer pushes to mend US-Ukraine ties. Welcome back to the details. Leading on news tonight, the Zionist occupation is reinforcing its military presence around Jenin camp with tanks and armored vehicles near the hospital. Now in its 44th day, the assault continues with a tight siege, raids and forced evictions. Local officials say that the camp is devastated, with municipal crews barely able to enter, revealing massive destruction. The Zionist occupation forces have notified Palestinian families of plans to demolish 17 more homes in Norshem's camp, east of Tulkarm, raising the total to 28. Nihad al-Shawish, head of the camp's popular committee, told the Palestinian news agency that the demolitions in the Al-Manshia neighborhood aim to alter the camp's geography under the pretext of road construction, displacing families from homes built years ago. Hamas praised the operation by Marr Mufid al-Kilani west of Nablus, calling for intensified attacks against the occupation. Hamas added that the operation was a response to the occupation's crimes in the West Bank, reaffirming that the resistance will continue until Palestine is liberated and the occupation's aggression ends.
We salute the free heroes of the West Bank who are forging the path of resistance with unwavering determination, breaking the chains of occupation and its collaborators, and engaging in a heroic confrontation that knows no retreat. We call for an escalation of Fidayin operations that disrupt the occupation and its security apparatus. The heroic shooting operation near the Homesh settlement, west of Nablus, reaffirms that the spirit of resistance burns strong in the hearts of our revolutionary youth in response to the crimes of the occupation and its ongoing aggression against our people, particularly in the northern occupied West Bank.
On Wednesday morning, settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque through the Maghariba Gate, escorted by Zionist occupation forces. Al-Quds Islamic Endowments Department reported that dozens of settlers toured the courtyards and performed Talmudic rituals, while the occupation tightened entry restrictions on worshippers. Al-Aqsa faces near daily incursions, especially during the holy month of Ramadan, as tensions over the occupation's violations continue. UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food, Michael Fakhri, accused the occupying Israel of violating international law by using starvation as a weapon of war. In a statement, he urged the international community to impose sanctions on the occupation until it ends this practice. He also called for a ban on arms exports, stressing that the occupation is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. On a similar note, UNICEF found that the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza reflects the international community's failure to end the Zionist war on the Strip. Spokesman Kazem Abu Khalaf stressed that the ongoing tragedy stems from the world's inability to hold the occupation's aggression, warning that freezing aid would have devastating consequences. Still with Palestine-related news, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza reported that 35 martyrs arrived at the Strip's hospitals in the past 24 hours, including 30 bodies recovered, one person who succumbed to his injuries, and another killed. The ministry confirmed that the death toll from the Zionist aggression has risen to 48,440 martyrs, with 111,845 injured since October 7, 2023. As the situation unfolds in the Strip, the final statement of Tuesday's Arab Summit in Cairo reaffirmed the Arab stance against proposals to displace Palestinians while adopting Egypt's plan for rebuilding Gaza. The plan outlines specific stages for reconstruction and emphasizes the preservation of the Palestinian people's right to rebuild their homeland and stay on their land. In response to this, Hamas welcomed the extraordinary Arab Summit in Cairo, which addressed threats to the Palestinian cause amid ongoing Zionist aggression, genocide, and displacement plans. In a Wednesday statement, Hamas called the summit a step towards stronger Arab and Islamic support for Palestine. It praised leaders for rejecting displacement, annexation, and settlement projects while affirming Palestinian rights to freedom. Voices of opposition emerged from the White House, which rejected the Arab plan for managing and rebuilding Gaza, with U.S. National Security Council spokesman Brian Hughes arguing that it fails to address the dire conditions in the Strip, where residents face unlivable circumstances amid widespread destruction and unexploded ordnance. Amid growing reactions, Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Alvarez welcomed the Arab plan to rebuild Gaza, emphasizing that it enables Palestinians to live in peace on their land. He reaffirmed Spain's support for a ceasefire and the urgent need to allow aid into the Strip.
We support the establishment of a ceasefire in Gaza and the entry of humanitarian aid. We also welcome the Arab reconstruction plan that will enable Palestinians to live in peace on their land.
Moving on to Morocco now, the Moroccan Association for the Protection of Public Money accused authorities of silencing those who expose corruption and cracking down on opponents of normalization. Its head, Mohamed Ghaloussi, stated on Wednesday that this shift began with threats and has escalated to judicial prosecutions and harsh sentences against those rejecting corruption, rising prices, and normalization, aiming to suppress societal awareness and calls for a change.
This dominant trend in Morocco is asserting itself politically, extending its influence across state institutions and society. Thriving on corruption, rent-seeking, and illicit wealth, it resists reforms and democratic change. It has also exposed political figures linked to drug trafficking, embezzlement, and power abuse, leaving society to bear the heavy costs.
In Morocco still, the country's human rights organizations and trade unions have warned of a growing crackdown on free expression, citing the recent ruling against activist Fouad Abdelmoumni, which sparked widespread condemnation. They also denounced the arbitrary prosecutions targeting those defending the rights of earthquake victims. More on this story with Hassan Burkan now.
Following harsh sentences against anti-normalization activists in Morocco, the crackdown on human rights defenders is escalating. Repression has become the regime's main response to growing public discontent. A Casablanca court recently sentenced activist Fouad Abdelmoumni to prison and a fine. The Moroccan Committee for the Support of Political Prisoners condemned the ruling as retaliation for his criticism of the country's political and human rights situation, a sentence echoed by civil rights organizations.
We were truly shocked by this ruling. It is extremely harsh and can only be seen as part of a broader effort to restrict freedoms, suppress human rights, and instill fear and anxiety in society.
The crackdown has also targeted civil activists like Saeed Ait Mehdi, who advocates for Al-Hawz earthquake victims His prison sentence was recently increased from 3 months to a year. Others have faced prosecution merely for demanding aid for victims who have endured 2 harsh winters in makeshift tents, while authorities remain indifferent.
We strongly denounce the increased sentence against activist Saeed Mehdi, who has been defending Al Hawz earthquake victims. Instead of addressing the plight of those affected since September 2023, authorities have chosen to silence those calling for justice.
The crackdown on rights defenders and anti-normalization activists intensifies, raising concerns about systemic repression of free speech. Even children have not been spared, with authorities reportedly targeting an entire blogger's family, including a 13-year-old child.
Spanish organizations condemned the expulsion of the Confederation's foreign relations official from the occupied Sahrawi territories, urging the Spanish government to take a firm stance against Morocco's violations. At a press conference, Spanish Labor Confederation's Secretary General, Miguel Fadrique, denounced the expulsion as part of Morocco's systematic repression in Western Sahara. He stressed the need to expose Morocco's impunity in committing flagrant violations against the Sahrawi people and denying them their basic rights. Shifting focus to Algeria now, the Algerian Ministry of Defense announced the thwarting of an attempt to smuggle over 3 quintals of drugs across the border with Morocco. In a statement, the ministry said army units, in coordination with security services, seized 331 kilograms of processed cannabis and arrested 36 drug dealers in operations across multiple military regions. Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune chaired a working meeting on Wednesday to evaluate export operations of Algerian materials and products and review related procedures, according to a statement from the Algerian presidency. Turning to Libya, the UN support mission in the country reaffirmed its readiness to provide technical support to Libya's Ministry of Justice to enhance the sector's effectiveness and responsiveness to the country's needs. During Tuesday's meeting, UNISMIL head Hana Sarwa Tete and Libyan Justice Minister Halima Abdurrahman discussed human rights, detention conditions, and ways to strengthen justice administration and the ministry's role in transitional justice. Elsewhere in Africa, the Sudanese army announced on Wednesday that it had recaptured the city of Adali in Sennar State, southeast of the country. Meanwhile, the 6th Infantry Division in Al-Fashir confirmed ongoing clashes with the Rapid Support Forces in central Khartoum as the army advances toward key areas near the Republican Palace and the federal government headquarters. The Sudanese army announced on Wednesday that it had recaptured the town of Roro in Blue Nile State. The 6th Infantry Division in Al-Fashir reported that warplanes carried out 3 airstrikes on enemy strongholds in Roro, achieving significant success. The army continues its advance on the Eastern Nile axis near the strategic Mashia Bridge, asserting control over most areas held by the Rapid Support Forces. Still with Sudan's related news, a Sudanese Relief Committee reported on Wednesday that at least 6 people were killed in artillery shelling by the Rapid Support Forces on Abu Shuk camp for displaced people in Al-Fashir, North Darfur. The Abu Shuk emergency room confirmed the deaths and multiple civilian injuries, stating that the camp was targeted for the 2nd consecutive day. Moving on to other topical development, Russia welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's remarks about Kiev's readiness to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov called Zelensky's comments to Trump positive and stressed the need to clarify who Russia would negotiate with.
It is positive. The question is who to negotiate with. As of now, the Ukrainian president is still legally prohibited from negotiating with the Russian side. Therefore, the overall approach is positive, but the nuances have not changed yet.
In a similar note, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky emphasized that he seeks a secure future for Ukraine and a permanent end to the war, not just as temporary ceasefire. During a call with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Zelensky stressed that lasting peace can be achieved through coordination with Washington, highlighting a consensus on Trump's role in the talks. In a related story, U.S. President Donald Trump called for an end to the war in Ukraine, emphasizing the need for cooperation from all sides. Speaking to Congress on Tuesday, he revealed that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had sent him a letter expressing readiness for negotiations with Russia and willingness to sign the rare earth minerals deal.
We do really value how much America. We've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides.
U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz said on Wednesday that President Donald Trump may restore aid to Ukraine if peace talks are arranged and confidence-building measures are taken. He added that the U.S. has stepped back and is reviewing all aspects of its intelligence relationship with Ukraine.
We have taken a step back and are pausing and reviewing all aspects of this relationship. But I just got off the phone before I walked out here with my counterpart, the Ukrainian National Security Advisor. We are having good talks on a location for the next round of negotiations, on delegations, on substance. So just in the last 24 hours, since the public statement from Zelensky, and then these subsequent conversations, which I'm going to walk inside and continue, I think we're going to see movement in very short order.
And in the latest updates on this file, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he's working to repair U.S.-Ukraine relations and advance ceasefire talks for lasting peace. Speaking in Parliament on Wednesday, he stressed the need for greater efforts from the US, Europe and Ukraine to achieve a sustainable resolution.
Minister doing to help rebuild their relationship?
Well, she's absolutely right that we need to do everything we can to ensure that the US, Europe and Ukraine are working together on lasting peace. And I'm doing everything I can to play my part in that, in regular contact with all of the key players.
U.S. President Donald Trump told Congress that America is back, referring to political and economic strength and hegemony. In his first State of the Union, he doubled down on his administration's push to take control of Panama and Greenland. Marabal has more.
Amid thunderous applause, Donald Trump stood before Congress to deliver his first official address on the country's direction. His message, America is back. With confidence, the Republican president hailed his administration's swift achievements since taking office, declaring the dawn of a new era for the nation.
6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America. From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started. I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before.
For an hour and 40 minutes, Trump addressed domestic and international affairs, speaking as a leader in control. His vision, American dominance. He vowed to reclaim control of the Panama Canal, built, he said, by Americans for Americans. And in his sweeping ambitions, Greenland is also on the map.
The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. But it was built at tremendous cost of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Trump's speech marked a return to power politics at the White House. His America First doctrine is shaking the global stage, even straining ties with key allies.
And speaking of global powers on the world stage, Beijing called on the U.S. to consult with China on the fentanyl issue. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian emphasized the need for fair and respectful dialogue, accusing Washington of using fentanyl as an excuse to impose tariffs.
The United States has insisted on using the fentanyl issue as an excuse to once again impose tariffs on Chinese products exported to the United States. China has repeatedly stated its opposition and taken legitimate and necessary countermeasures. If the U.S. really wants to resolve the fentanyl issue, it should consult with China on the basis of equality, respect, and mutual benefit to resolve their respective concerns.
And in the same context, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau slammed U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian imports as stupid and announced a 25% tariff on $30 billion worth of U.S. goods in response. He warned that Canada could target an additional $125 billion in imports within 21 days, if necessary, accusing Trump of trying to destroy the Canadian economy and ruling out any immediate dialogue. And finally, to a lighter note, for the third day running, Huawei has captivated the audience at Mobile World Congress Barcelona 2025 with its groundbreaking advancements in artificial intelligence. Under the slogan Accelerating the Intelligent World, the tech giant unveiled two revolutionary features that are set to redefine industries and everyday life. Huawei introduced AI Drama, which transforms books into videos, and AI agent technology that is expected to revolutionize domestic broadband.
In addition to the emerging AI new application, here we want to say AI also impact the traditional traffic model. Here we were sharing a case, commercial case from China. It's original reading application. We can read the book in the traditional way, read the text, but with the AI GC coming, they convert the topic, the novel, into the AI drama. Like this. So now we can watch the drama, watching the TV instead of reading. And the operator can cooperate with the third-party content medium company to upgrade their bundles.
This year actually is the first year of the massive adoption for AI agents. AI agents will actually change the way we live our lives. So from now on with AI agents, you don't need to have multiple apps in your smartphone. You only need to interact with your agent in order to do multiple tasks and multiple actions.
And that wraps up our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms: YouTube, X, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.